described as a form of job security for teachers that have proven themselves adequate instructors during the provisional period. Tenure protects the competent teachers from non-renewal of contracts for several reasons, not related to the educational factor. As described by Michael Robert, without job security, academics might be inclined to play it safe rather than to investigate the areas about which they are most passionate to report their honest conclusions. Tenure was created so there was no biases about being taught. For instance, if someone wants to speak freely regarding a certain matter, and those evaluating the professors believe the lesson did not demonstrate any effectiveness or anything like that, they'd be at risk of losing their job. So, for the reason that someone didn't like your teaching style, that they wrote that way to lose your job. If, in fact, so many teachers are being laid off due to the fact that they no longer are putting any effort just because they have job security. Many professors in the college level have evaluation sheets that are given at the end of the class term. Here the students are to give the professors the evaluation describing how well they taught their lessons, how clear the facts were, was it adequate material for the course, and other several factors. The point that I'm trying to get through is that most students know this. In some occasions, the students try to use this to their advantage, and at some point use it to blackmail professors for better grades. An example given was in grade inflation, the effects of educational quality and personal well-being by C.H. Edwards. He explains, some schools place a high value on student reviews when evaluating professor tenure. His colleague Brian Sooner goes by stating those faculties are hesitant to give lower grades as it could create student complaints that would result in adjunction, not receiving of any offer. In other words, basically, the students are the ones grading it. Professors are like skeptical on giving bad grades just because that might affect their tenure. If any teachers with tenure do not lead ineffective teachers, what leads to ineffective students are themselves. By them controlling whether or not a professor will return to school or not, they control their education on the basis that if something is too challenging for them, the professor will need to change to their learning styles. On the other hand, according to Bonnie Ho from EPE Research Center, most candidates on the tenure track or the tenure get evaluated yearly. She goes on by stating, although such evaluations appear on the periodic basis, some states require that they occur more frequently than others. In Quality Counts 2008, the EPE Research Center reported that only 12 states perform these evaluations yearly. Secondly, my opponent described how the current policy of tenure is inadequate because it takes a long time for faculty members to be removed from work. This, however, is a false statement. A board member is not kept in the position he is in the moment. If anything, the professor is removed from teaching as fast as possible and is placed under investigation until it's determined he's able to do a good job. For the most part, the thing that angers most people about firing a tenure teacher is that the process is long and tedious. The reason why firing a teacher is long is because school boards need to determine if in fact the professor has been doing a poor job in assisting students educationally. The process begins by the school board notifying teachers in writing considering termination. The teacher then has 7 days to reply with a letter asking the board why he's asking to be terminated. A week later, the board replies giving him the reason, and then from there they have 20 days for he or she to notify, to basically explain why she feels that they're wrongly accused. Soon after the board finalizes the decision, they send a hearing, basically telling the teacher if he or she is not fired, and depending on what the decision is, the professor actually has the option of whether just to quit or to take it up to the Supreme Court. And then thirdly, my opponent said that by changing the length by changing the length of acquiring tenure, it wouldn't, I guess, improve professors. What I have to say about this is that tenure is tough and a long process. Many professors on tenure try to take more than 3 years, and even if they do this for 5 years, the difficulty to reach tenure is it's really hard. Before a teacher gets to the status of tenure, they must have had some criteria such as publishes, mentoring students, serving in the community, in committees, sorry about that, review papers for journals, and present conferences. By having a teacher do the program for 5 years, one already weeds out the bad people and tenure, and to state the making this process longer will not weed out bad professors. If anything, it will encourage more people to stay due to the fact that the only thing stopping them from getting tenure is time. And then by stating these facts, hopefully one can see that tenure is adequate, and at this time, the effort to reform this topic will just be a waste.